Hey guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, we'll be solving questions of audit strategy, audit planning and audit program. Okay, I suggest you do not miss this video and you watch this video till the end because I'm going to be covering almost 30 questions, this kind of questions. Okay, so 30 of this kind of questions and we're going to solve 19 correct or incorrect. Okay, and then we're also going to solve 22 MCQs. Okay, so all this is going to be there in this video itself. Okay, so I suggest you watch it till the end so that all your questions, correct, incorrect and MCQs get covered and you secure the maximum amount of marks that is going to appear from this chapter. And secondly, this material or this compilation is provided by or this is from Edu91. Okay, so this is by Edu91, so I just want to give credit here. Okay, and without any further ado, let's start with this. Okay, we'll just start with the first question inside. This is from the ICI study material. Okay, so by the way, these questions include your ICI study mat questions. Okay, it includes RTPs and MTPs. Okay, RTPs and MTPs, and also past year questions. Okay, past year questions. So it covers everything, so there's no need to worry. Okay, next, the first question is from the ICI study mat. Okay, so here MG & Co is a firm of auditors having standing of 30 years, is appointed as a statutory audit of a company engaged in manufacturing of defense equipment. Okay, so there's no such knowledge, so there's no such information that is given here that we can answer from. Okay, we'll just continue. Okay, due to opening its defense sector by the government to private players in recent times, many new companies have entered into the fray to manufacture sophisticated defense equipment. Considering the technical and complex nature of operations, the auditors recognize the involvement of experts. Okay, so involvement of experts in the audit is required. Does consideration for involvement of experts by auditors fall in the domain of planning and audit? Okay, so here they're asking whether considering need for involvement of experts, right? They're asking whether this falls under audit planning or this falls under the responsibility of the auditor to put in the audit plan. Okay, so whether this forms part of audit plan or the audit strategy, right? So the answer in short is yes, it forms part of the auditor's responsibility. We'll just go through the answer. Okay, so planning and audit involves establishing the overall audit strategy that we know. Okay, so basically in the first line is the definition. Okay, so planning and audit involves establishing overall audit strategy for the engagement and developing a detailed audit plan. Okay, and the second point, while planning an audit, auditor would have to consider whether involvement of expert is necessary. Okay, in the stated case, the company is involved in technical and complex operations. Therefore, while planning an audit, the auditor would have to consider whether involvement of expert is necessary. Okay, what is our conclusion? Therefore, consideration for involvement of experts by the auditor falls within the domain of planning. Okay, very simple, very basic question. Okay, here in such kind of questions, it's just better to start off with the meaning of planning. Okay, so it doesn't mean audit plan. Okay, this is not the definition for audit plan or audit strategy. This is the definition of planning. Okay, planning is very wide, right? Planning is very broad. Okay, so planning is very broad. So what is planning actually? Planning involves setting of, or rather, what was the strategy? Establishing the strategy, right? Establishing overall strategy, audit strategy, and development of detailed audit plan. Okay, development of detailed audit plan. Okay, just for revision. Okay, if you guys want a detailed revision as to the chapter 2, I would suggest checking out my channel. Okay, so I've already given in this. Okay, so I've already made a video regarding the chapter 2 SA 300 planning. I recommend you guys check that out. Okay, next we'll just get back to that. Okay, so as I was saying, planning is establishing overall audit strategy and development of a detailed audit plan. Okay, next, planning involves two parts. Okay, first is the preliminary activities, preliminary engagement activities, and secondly, what does it also include? It includes the second one is the planning activities. Okay, so in this planning activities only, your audit plan, audit strategy, or rather first audit strategy, because audit strategy is always greater than the audit plan, or rather wider or more broader than the audit plan. Audit plan is more detailed. Okay, so audit strategy, audit plan, and changes therein. Okay, changes in audit strategy or audit plan. Okay, next, okay, so this is just the in case you have to give any base somewhere. Okay, you can use this. Okay, you can start by saying planning is the establishment of overall audit strategy and development of a detailed audit plan. And you can also say that planning includes two parts. First is the preliminary engagement activity, and second is the planning activities, which is development of audit strategy, audit plan, and changes of audit strategy and audit plan. Okay, next we'll move on to the second question. The second question is also from the ICAI study mat. Okay, test your understanding. Okay, next, CA Karthik is planning for audit of a company engaged in manufacturing of cosmetics. Okay, so Karthik is planning an audit of a company engaged in manufacturing of cosmetics. Okay, so basic. Next, considering nature of operations of the company, he had planned to include testing of controls of the company over purchases, sales, inventories. Okay, one fine day he reaches the corporate office and asks for manuals and required documentation to ensure surprise element is there in testing. He never shared with the management his intention to carry out any of the above procedures. Is the approach of CA Karthik proper? So basically what they're asking in this question, what they're trying to ask in this question is can auditor discuss his audit plan, or discuss rather audit plan only, discuss audit plan with management. Okay, so there are a few points to this. Okay, let's try to see if we can remember those points. Okay, so firstly the auditor, or rather we'll just put auditor may share or may discuss certain elements. Okay, remember, he cannot discuss the entire audit plan. Okay, he may discuss elements of the audit plan. Okay, auditor may discuss elements of audit plan. Okay, elements of audit plan to ensure there's a word, I don't remember it actually. Okay, to ensure smooth, we'll just go see that. Okay, to ensure to facilitate, right? It is to facilitate the conduct and management of audit, to facilitate conduct and management of audit. Okay, to facilitate the conduct and management of audit. Okay, so there were only 3 points, right? So and the second point was the auditor needs to take care while sharing or okay, needs to take care such that sharing will not compromise the effectiveness of audit. Okay, it will not compromise the effectiveness of audit. Okay, and what is the third point? The third point is, even though auditor may discuss elements of audit plan, elements of planning rather. Okay, the responsibility of planning and performing audit lies with the auditor only. It does not shift to the management. Responsibility of planning and performing audit lies with the auditor. Okay, so basically what are we saying here? In the question it asked, can the auditor discuss audit plan with management? So our answer is, auditor may discuss elements of audit plan to facilitate the conduct and management of audit. Okay, second point is, he should take care that such sharing does not lead to compromising the effectiveness of audit. Okay, and third point was, even though he shares elements of the planning with the management, the responsibility for preparing or for planning and performing the audit lies with the auditor itself. Okay, it does not shift to the management. Okay, we'll just go through what is given here. Okay, so the auditor may decide to discuss elements of planning the audit with the entity's management to facilitate the conduct and management of the audit engagement. Okay, when discussing matters included in the overall audit strategy, care is required in order not to compromise the effectiveness of audit. Okay, next, in the given case, CA Karthik has reached the office of the company without sharing with management his intention to test the controls. Right, sharing details to visit does not compromise the effectiveness of audit. So it is for the better facilitation and conduct of audit. Therefore, the approach of CA Karthik is not proper. Okay, is that clear? Next, discuss how performing preliminary engagement activities as a part of planning and audit assists the auditor. Okay, so basically they're asking about the preliminary engagement activities. Okay, so what is there in the preliminary engagement activities? We'll just go through that only first, and then I'll explain it. Okay, so first, as per SA 300, planning and audit of financial statements, the auditor shall undertake the following activities. Okay, so he has to follow certain preliminary engagement activities. Okay, so what are those activities? There are only 3. Okay, so there are only 3 activities that he has to do. Okay, what are those? Performing, evaluating, and establishing. Okay, so it is performing, evaluating, and establishing. Okay, this is performing as per SA 220, quality control of an audit of financial statements regarding the continuance of client relationship. Okay, this is important. Continuance of client relationship and specific audit management. Okay, what is the other point that was here? Why is this none? Why do we perform procedures as required by SA 220 regarding the continuance of client relationship and specific audit engagement? This is to ensure management integrity. Okay, this is to ensure management integrity. Okay, next, evaluating compliance with ethical requirements including independence as required by SA 220. This is to ensure that the auditor and the engagement team has the necessary independence and integrity to perform the audit. Okay, next, establishing an understanding of the terms of audit engagement as required by SA 210. Okay, so basically 2 points of SA 220. This is relating to SA 220. This is also relating to SA 220, and this is relating to SA 210. Okay, so I'll just take you to that part first. Okay, oops, yes, here. Okay, so here preliminary engagement activities, SA 220, SA 220, SA 210. Okay, now performing the procedures, evaluating and establishing. What are we performing? We are performing procedures as required by SA 220 regarding the continuance of client relationship and specific audit engagements to ensure that there is no issues with the management integrity. Okay, so we are ensuring that there is no issue with the management integrity. Okay, second point is also relating to SA 220 itself. It is to evaluate compliance with ethical requirements including independence. Okay, this is to ensure that the auditor maintains necessary integrity and independence. Okay, not only the auditor, the engagement team also. Okay, next, now what is SA 210? SA 210 relates to agreeing the terms of audit engagement. Okay, so this SA 210 deals with agreeing the terms of audit engagement. This is to establishing an understanding of terms of engagement as per the SA 210. Okay, this is to ensure that there is no misunderstanding as to the terms of engagement. Okay, clear? I think this is pretty sufficient. Okay, next, discuss how an engagement partner ensures that the firm complies with ethical requirements, including independence to the in relation to the client. I think this one we had not covered in the revision video. Okay, so I think this part we had not covered because this is only there in the ICAI study map answer to this question. Okay, firstly, it is to obtain relevant information to identify and evaluate circumstances that create threats to independence. Okay, so first is identify threats to independence. Okay, we'll just simplify it down. Okay, identify threats to what? Threats to independence. Okay, independence, right? Secondly, evaluate information on identified breaches, if any, to determine whether they create a threat to the independent. Okay, next, identify breaches. Okay, so identify threats. And what is a breach? Breach means it is already like a threat has already progressed, or it has already escalated, and it has already breached or violated the independence. Okay, so evaluate identified breaches. Okay, why are we evaluating? To determine whether they create any threat. Okay, so basically to see whether they create any threat. Okay, whether they create any threat. Okay, next, take appropriate action to eliminate such threats or reduce them to an acceptable level by applying safeguards. If considered appropriate, then to withdraw. Okay, so if it is take appropriate action to eliminate such threats or reduce them to an acceptably low level by applying the safeguards, or if the situation is appropriate, if the situation deems it necessary to withdraw, then you withdraw. Basically that's what they're telling. Okay, so firstly, try to eliminate such threats, or secondly, reduce such threats to an acceptably low level. Okay, or in third case, if required, then withdraw from the engagement only. Okay, next, the engagement partner to promptly report to the firm any inability to resolve the matter for appropriate action. Okay, so the first point was identify the threats. Secondly, evaluate identified breaches. Okay, with the threats that can affect independence, right? Whether they can create a threat to independence, basically whether they can create a threat to independence. Okay, so firstly, identify threats to independence. Secondly, evaluate identified breaches and whether they create a threat to the independence. Okay, next, take appropriate action to third point is eliminate threat or reduce the threat, or lastly, if there's no other solution, then withdraw from the engagement. Okay, withdraw from audit engagement. Okay, next, last point was if the engagement, if there's any inability to resolve some problem, then promptly report to the firm. Okay, lastly, report to firm any inability. Okay, any inability to resolve, okay, resolve any problem, resolve matters. Okay, Next. Okay, now you can see here only how many times it's been asked. Okay, RTP 18, suggested answer November 19, MTP 1, November 22, RTP May 2023, RTP May 2019, RTP and November 2019, right? And RTP November 21, MTP May 2023, right? You can see how many times this question has been asked. Okay, so we'll just go through it. Okay, so this will be, according to us, very, very important. Okay, very, very important. Okay, Surya and Chand Limited is a manufacturing company engaged in the production of miscellaneous goods. Okay, so Trilochan and company has been appointed as the auditors to carry out its audit. Okay, so they are we are doing the audit of Surya and Chand. Okay, and Trilochan and Co is the auditor. Okay, next, the auditor thinks, I'll just highlight it from now on. Okay, the auditor thinks planning an audit would involve establishing an overall audit strategy for the engagement and developing an audit plan. So technically till here it's correct. Okay, till here we don't find anything wrong. There's no problem, right? Next, adequate planning benefits. Sorry, also adequate planning benefits the. Sorry, my bad. Whoops. Let me just close this. Okay, so adequate planning benefits the audit of financial statements in several ways. Okay, now analyze and advise the benefits of adequate planning. Okay, and adequate planning benefits the audit of financial statements. Discuss, explain the benefits of planning, engagement of okay, we'll just read the other kinds of questions also. Okay, so engagement partner of audit firm MKCN company thinks that planning an audit would involve establishing of overall audit strategy and developing an audit plan. Okay, also adequate planning would benefit the audit of financial statements in several ways. Analyze the benefits of audit. So you can see how many times and how many ways that this question has been asked. Okay, next, planning an audit involves establishing overall audit strategy. Same thing, explain clearly those ways. Okay, so basically they're asking what are the benefits of audit. Okay, what are the benefits of planning and audit. Okay, very simple, we'll just go here. Okay, so here firstly you write the meaning of benefit. Okay, so meaning of planning. Okay, so what is the meaning of planning? Planning is sometimes they've given in the question only, no? Planning is establishing the overall audit strategy establishing the overall audit strategy and development of audit plan. Okay, so this is basic. Okay, so this thing has to come, no matter what, this has to come. Okay, so there's no other way. Okay, so this line has to come. This is the base. Okay, and now below this we will write our benefits of planning. Okay, benefits of planning. Okay, so it is very simple. Do you remember we had made some kind of a storyline for this? Okay, so basically we had made some kind of a storyline for remembering benefits of planning, right? So firstly let me just change the ink first. Okay, now when you plan, okay, you can give appropriate attention to important areas. Okay, so the first point was appropriate attention. Okay, so these are just the keywords. Okay, so you'll have to add the words, you'll have to add words front and back. Okay, we'll just see that in the suggested answer. This is just to make you memorize the answer. Okay, so appropriate attention to important areas. So important areas. Okay, secondly, when you give appropriate attention to important areas, then it will make it easier to identify and resolve potential problems. Okay, so when you give appropriate attention to important areas, you can identify and resolve potential problems, right? Potential problems. Okay, so once you have given appropriate attention to important areas, which will help you identify and resolve potential problems. It will become the organizing and management of audit organizing and management of audit will be easier. Okay, will be easier. Okay, now what comes in organizing? What comes in organizing? So when you have to organize the audit, okay, so first obviously you will need the engagement team, right? So one of the points is also selection of selection of assistants. Okay, it helps in selection of assistants. Okay, secondly, how much is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Fifth point is, once you select good assistants, okay, once you select good assistants, what do you have to do to those assistants? You will have to obviously direct, supervise and review their work. Okay, so you'll have to direct, supervise and review of assistants work, right? Assistants work. What is this DSR? Direction, supervision and review. Okay, direction, supervision, review of assistants work. Okay, and lastly, what is the last point? The last point relates to coordination of audit with other experts, right? Other auditors and experts. Okay, so these are the benefits of planning. Okay, so for this you will get 4 to 5 marks. That's all you have to do. Okay, you'll just have to add a few words here and here, okay, in the beginning and the ending. So these are just the keywords. Okay, you just try to memorize it once. Okay, appropriate. Okay, so benefits of planning. Okay, here you can give appropriate attention to important areas. Okay, you can identify and resolve the potential problems. Okay, it also helps in organizing and management of the audit. Okay, it also helps in selection of assistants. It will also help in direction, supervision and review of the assistants work. Okay, and it will also assist in coordination of audit done by other auditors and experts. Okay, so basically these are the benefits of auditing. You can see how many times this question has been asked, right? So we will give the same amount of importance. Okay, next we'll move on. Now we'll just read from here. Okay, so the same thing, right? We had also written establishing overall audit strategy and developing an audit plan. Next, as per SA 300, planning and audit of the financial statements. Adequate planning benefits the audit of financial statements in several ways. Okay, so it helps the auditor to devote appropriate attention to important areas. It helps the auditor in identifying and resolving potential problems on a timely basis. Okay, this timely basis we'll have to remember extra. Okay, so we had already learned these keywords, right? Appropriate attention to important areas and identify and resolve potential problems on a timely basis. Okay, next, it also helps the auditor properly organize and manage the audit engagement, so it is performed in an effective and efficient manner. Okay, so that also we can add to our answer, right? Next, moving on. It also helps in assisting the selection of engagement team members. Okay, I said assistants, it should have been engagement team members. Okay, assists in selection of engagement team members with appropriate level of capability and competence. Okay, next, facilitates the direction and supervision of engagement team members and review of their work. Okay, and lastly, coordination of work done by other auditors and done by auditors of components and experts. Okay, fairly simple, easy, 4 to 5 marks. I didn't want to skip it. I didn't want to simply lose 4 to 5 marks because I didn't give it enough importance. Okay, next question. planning is not a discrete phase of an audit, but rather a continual and iterative process. Okay, so this is suggested answer of November 28. It can come for 5 marks, also come in the RTP, and also come in November 29. Okay, and also in May 2021. Okay, so you can see the importance of this also. Okay, next, planning is not a discrete phase of an audit, but rather a continual and iterative process that often begins shortly after the completion of previous audit and continues until the completion of the current audit engagement. Analyze and explain. Okay, we'll just go to my notes for a second. Right, this was covered in that revision video. Right, yeah. So these are the points that you have to remember. Okay, so which points? These points over here. Okay, so this is what you have to remember. Okay, so firstly, this is the same heading. They'll just give this heading and then they put dot explain, or they'll put comment, right? Explain, comment, or whatever, right? Now we're going to give it some importance. Okay, let's not take this lightly, right? Now, planning is a continuous process. It is not a discrete phase. It is a continual and iterative process. Okay, it begins shortly after the completion of previous audit and continues until the completion of the current audit. Okay, so it is a continuous process. It is not a discrete phase. It is continual and iterative process. Okay, it begins shortly after the completion of the previous audit and continues until the completion of the current audit. Okay, next, includes consideration of timing of certain activities and audit procedures prior to performance of further audit procedures. Okay, it includes consideration of timing of certain activities. Okay, it includes timing of certain activities prior to performance of further audit procedures. Okay, clear? Next, and last point is, planning involves performance of analytical procedures, assessing materiality, understanding the legal and regulatory requirement, involvement of experts, and other risk assessment procedures. Okay, this RAP is risk assessment procedures. Okay, so we'll just go through it one by one and then we'll try to memorize it. Okay, so it is not a discrete phase. It is a continual and iterative process. It begins, what does this continual and iterative process mean? It means that it begins shortly after the conclusion of the previous audit and continues till the completion of the current audit. And what is the third point? It includes consideration of timing of certain activities and procedures prior to performance of further audit procedures. Okay, next, and lastly, what does planning involve? It involves performing analytical procedures, determining materiality, and third, understanding legal and regulatory environment, and involvement of experts and other risk assessment procedures. Okay, fairly simple. Now we'll just go to the question and see what they have given. Okay, yeah, here essay, as per essay 300, planning of audit of financial statements. Essay 300 is planning of audit of financial statements, right? Next, planning is not a discrete phase of an audit, but rather a continual and iterative process. Same thing we had learned there, right? It is not a discrete phase. It is a continual and iterative process. What does that mean? It means that it begins shortly after the completion of previous audit, or rather conclusion of the previous audit, and continues till the completion of the current audit. Okay, and next, what was the third point? It also includes consideration of timing of certain activities and procedures prior to performance of further audit procedures. Okay, so what does that mean? It means planning includes the need to consider prior to the auditor's identification and assessment of risk such matters such as, okay, so what are the activities that are needed to be done before you do the further audit procedures. Okay, before doing further audit procedures, what are the procedures that activities and procedures that you have to do? Okay, so that is basically the analytical procedures related to risk assessment. Okay, understanding legal and regulatory framework, determining materiality, involvement of experts, and performance of other assessment procedures. Okay, next, So this question is self, meaning it was done by the Edu91 team. Okay, we'll just go through it once. Okay, discuss the matters to be considered while establishing overall audit strategy and audit plan for initial engagement. Okay, initial engagement means for the first time you are going to that company to perform the audit engagement. Okay, meaning you have never performed the audit of that company, meaning you don't know how good their internal control is, you don't know how the management is, right? So in that case, what do you have to do? Okay, so the first point is, we had already covered this, okay? I'll just show it to you in the notes once. Okay, yeah. So firstly, over here, the purpose and the objective is the same. Okay, so here purpose and objective is the same. Purpose and objective of what? The audit engagement. Okay, purpose and objective of the audit engagement is the same. Okay, next, there is a need to expand planning activities because we have no idea how good or bad their internal control is. We have no idea of what their or how their environment and entity, so how that entity's environment is, right? So therefore we need to expand the planning activities. Okay, and we have to perform procedures as required by SA 220. You remember SA 220 we had seen in preliminary engagement activities, right? So in that case we were already the client, we were already the auditors of that client in previous years. So we were checking procedures required by SA 220 regarding continuance, but in this case we are going to talk about acceptance. Okay, in this case we are going to talk about acceptance. Okay, so since it is our initial audit engagement, it is our first time taking up this audit, we are going to check the procedures required by SA 220 regarding acceptance. Okay, next, communication with predecessor auditor, meaning who was their auditor before. Try and communicate with them and try to find what problems were faced, and things like that. Okay. Next, other procedures as required by quality control of the firm. Okay, so basically first there are 5 points, right? We'll just close our eyes and we'll try to memorize it. Okay, firstly, the planning and objectives are the same. Purpose and objectives of this engagement is the same. Okay, purpose and objective of the audit engagement is the same. Secondly, there's a need to expand the planning activities. Okay, third, performing procedures as required by SA 220 regarding their continuance. Okay, regarding acceptance, because there are first initial audit engagement, right? So this is the first time we are going to conduct an audit engagement for that particular client, right? Next, communication with predecessor auditor and other procedures required by company's own quality control. Okay, so that firm may only have certain quality control programs, so depending on that you will have to do those procedures also. Okay, now we'll just check what is given in the answer. Okay, so firstly purpose and objective of planning the audit is the same. Okay, next, however, for an initial audit, the auditor may need to expand the planning activity. Okay, so there's a need to expand the planning activities, right? Next, because the auditor does not ordinarily have previous experience. Okay, why does like I told you, why does he have the need to expand the planning activities? Because the auditor does not ordinarily have previous experience with the entity that is considered while planning a recurring engagement. Okay, next, for initial audits, he'll have to take care certain additional matters such as performing procedures as required by SA 220 regarding acceptance. Okay, it's in the notes also, right? Okay, next, unless prohibited by law or regulation, arrangements is to be made with the predecessor auditor for review of predecessor auditor's working papers. Okay, so first of all, working paper of an auditor is his private property. Okay, so no other auditor can ask for or demand for another auditor's working papers. Okay, so next, other procedures as required by the firm's quality control. Okay, firm system of quality control for initial audit engagement. Okay, we'll start from the first again. Okay, so here it was the purpose and objective of planning the audit are same whether it is initial or recurring. Secondly, what did we see? For initial audit engagement, there is a need to expand the planning activities because we have no previous experience. Okay, And thirdly, there are some additional matters that are needed to be considered. Okay, firstly, performing procedures as required by SA 220 regarding acceptance of client relationship. Okay, acceptance of client relationship and specific audit engagement. And secondly, what is the second additional matter? Unless it is prohibited by law or any regulation, there is a need to make arrangements to communicate with the predecessor auditor. Okay, next, and other procedures required by the firm's internal firm's quality or rather firm system of quality control for initial audit engagement. Okay, fairly simple. Okay, now we're coming to audit strategy. Okay, so as soon as I say audit strategy, there are three letters that are supposed to come to your mind automatically. Okay, so audit strategy, immediately three letters should come. Okay, audit strategy, STND. Okay, audit strategy, STND. Okay, it establishes the scope. Okay, scope, timing and direction. Okay, so it establishes scope, timing and direction of audit, and it assists in development of or rather it guides the development of detailed audit plan. Okay, detailed audit plan. Okay, crazy, right? Easy. I meant to say easy, right? Nice. Okay, so when I say audit strategy, what are the three words that are supposed to come? Scope, timing and direction of audit. Okay, scope, timing and direction of what? The audit engagement. Okay, of the audit engagement. Okay, now we'll just go through it. Okay, so first, CA Shubu, I don't know. CA is a statutory auditor of social media company. Due to the change in information technology regulations by the government, it has become mandatory for such companies to constitute grievance redressal mechanism for users of social media platform of the company. Okay, failure to comply with the regulation can potentially lead to civil and criminal liability against the company. Is above factor to be considered by the auditor while framing the audit strategy. Okay, now we'll go through what they've given in the answer. Okay, so basically they're telling that this company, which company? Okay, some social media company is there, and this CA is auditing some social media company, right? And there's some changes in the regulations that is required. Okay, so what they're doing in that regulation, they've made it mandatory for companies to constitute some kind of mechanism, and if you don't make that mechanism, you can get certain civil or criminal liabilities. Okay, so obviously when you're framing the audit strategy, you will have to take that into consideration, whether they have followed it or not, either through performing audit procedures or through engagement of experts. Okay, that is dependent on the auditor. Okay, next, as per SA 300, planning of an audit of financial statements, an auditor shall establish overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing and direction. This is the STND. Okay, it sets the STD of audit and guides the development of detailed audit plan. Okay, so what is audit strategy? Audit strategy means STD, that's all. Okay, I don't care what other meaning STD has. Okay, but for our understanding and for our memory, we are going to remember audit strategy means STD. Okay, it sets the scope, timing and direction of the audit and guides the development of a detailed audit plan. That's all, very simple. Okay, next, changes in law and regulation affecting the company is a factor to be considered while establishing the overall audit strategy. Okay, so there has been a change in information technology, blah blah blah. Non-compliance of the same can have implications in the form of civil and criminal liability. So therefore, it is to be considered by the auditor while establishing. That's all. Very simple, very easy. Okay, next. Okay, again we're getting a very important question, right? It has been asked in May 2018, November 2018, November 2018 and May 2018 for almost 4 to 5 marks. Okay, so unless you're willing to lose 4 to 5 marks, I suggest you pay attention. Okay, so auditor D of Hand Fab Limited is worried as to management of key resources to be employed to conduct audit. How the audit strategy would be helpful to the auditor. Okay, so here they're asking about the resources, key resources. Okay, so they're asking about the nature or rather how you're going to deploy your resources. Okay, let's see what other questions they have. Okay, engagement partner of AST and Associates, a firm of chartered accountants, appointed the auditor for Fabric India Limited. Okay, considering as to management of key resources to be employed. Okay, key resources to be employed to conduct audit. Okay, discuss how overall audit strategy can assist the auditor. Okay, next let's see what other types of questions there are. Okay, and then we'll jump into the answer. Okay, so the auditor shall establish an overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing and direction. This is still the question, by the way. Okay, scope, timing and direction, and that guides the development of a detailed audit plan. Discuss stating the process of establishing audit plan, how would assist the auditor to determine key matters. Okay, same. This is a bit different. I don't know why this is there. Okay, so this has nothing to do with the other questions. Okay, next, describe how process of establishing assists the auditor in marshalling his human resources. Okay, so this is in the same context as the above two. Okay, so this, all these three are in this one, and this one are in, it makes sense, but here they've not spoken anything about human resources or deploying his resources. Right, next, what is another way of asking the question? It would be overall audit strategy sets the scope, timing and direction, guides. Okay, blah blah blah, as usual. Right, the process of establishing the overall assists the auditor in determining such matters. Resource, okay, for example, the resources to deploy for specific audit areas, such as the use of appropriately experienced team members for high risk areas and the involvement of experts on complex matters. Explain the other such matters. Okay, so firstly, I feel like this is a bit different question. Okay, I feel like this is also a different question. Okay, I'll explain what this question is asking. Okay, so when you're setting the audit strategy. Okay, when you're establishing the overall audit strategy, you're going to you set the scope, timing and direction of the audit, and also it guides the development of a detailed audit plan. Okay, the process of establishing assists the auditor in determining the subject of completion of auditor's risk assessment procedures, such matters such as resources to be deployed. Okay, so basically what they're how you're going to deploy. Okay, so basically they're asking how you're going to deploy. Okay, you're going to give them three types. Okay, so firstly, nature of resources to be deployed. Okay, and extent of, or rather timing of resources, right? Nature of resources, timing of resources, and extent of resources. Okay, extent of resources, and lastly you're going to, of all these resources, you're going to do DSR, which is direction, supervision and review. Okay, or yeah, that is basically how they are managed. Okay, this is basically how they are managed. Okay, next, yeah, okay, so here this talks about nature. Okay, this this talks about the extent. Okay, this talks about the extent, and this talks about timing. Okay, the third point talks about timing. Okay, and lastly how they are managed. Okay, so last one talks about how they are managed. Okay, how they are DSR. Okay, how they are directed, supervised and reviewed. Okay, so firstly, in the first part here, in nature, what comes in nature? The resources to deploy for specific audit areas, such as use of appropriately experienced team members. Okay, so this is the nature of the team members. Okay, whether they should be highly experienced or whether there are any high risk areas for the involvement of experts, right? So the nature of resources they're talking about here. Okay, secondly, the amount of resources to be allocated to specific audit areas, such as number of team members assigned to observe inventory count, the extent of review of other auditors work, right? Next, when these resources are to be deployed, whether at the interim stage or at the key cutoff dates or at the end of the year, right? Next, lastly, how are they managed, directed and supervised, and how engagement partner reviews are expected to be taken place. Okay, so basically nature involves the use of appropriately experienced audit team, right? And for high risk areas, and involvement of experts. Okay, second is extent, the amount of resources that is to be allocated to specific audit areas, right? Meaning for how much members have to be allocated for each particular thing. For example, for taking count of inventory, right? Or the extent of review of other auditors work. Okay, third point is when they are to be deployed. Okay, so basically during the interim period or during the key cutoff dates or at the end of the year. Okay, and lastly, how they are going to be supervised, managed and reviewed. Okay, so what is the how such resources are managed and supervised. Okay, details as to briefing and debriefing of the team, right? And how the engagement partner manages to review, or rather how the manager review is taken place. Okay, next question. In establishing overall audit strategy, the auditor shall ascertain the reporting objectives of the engagement to plan the timing of the audit and nature of the communications required. Elucidate those cases by which the auditor can ascertain reporting objectives. Okay, so basically this is okay, so audit strategy, there are a few components. Okay, so in audit strategy, okay, so in audit strategy is based on these parts. Okay, I'll just explain it. Okay, first is CS, meaning characteristics and scope. Okay, I'll show you how ICI will ask. Okay, CS, ROETE, PEAOE and NET of resources. Okay, RO stands for the reporting objectives. Okay, next, engagement team efforts, and this is preliminary engagement activities, and other engagements. Okay, and lastly, nature, extent and timing of resources. Okay, this characteristic and scope. Okay, so basically each of these headings have their own sub explanations. Okay, so this has some 4 or 5, this has only 1, 2, and this also has, as you saw, nature, timing and extent of how. Okay, so nature, time, extent, timing and how they are managed. Okay, and DSR. Okay, direction, supervision and review. Okay, so what they are asking is, they are asking about this part and they are asking you to explain these 4 things. Okay, so they are asking you to explain these 4 or 5 things. I think there are 5, right? Let's add one more. Okay, so they are asking you to explain these 5 things under this subheading under audit strategy elements, or what are the what sets the audit strategy, factors to be considered during the audit strategy. Okay, so first of all, in factors only there are these five parts, and inside that there are multiple things. Okay, so about this particular thing they are asking. Okay, they are asking what are the I'll just see what they're asking. Okay, so they're asking those cases by which the auditor can ascertain the reporting objectives. Okay, so basically how the cases by which the auditor can ascertain the reporting objectives. Okay, basic meaning what the entity intends to report. Okay, so what is the objective of such reporting. Okay, so firstly, so there are 5 things. We'll just go to the notes part and then from there we will memorize this. Okay, so it is like this. Okay, so establishing the audit strategy, out of this only there are 5 parts. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 and 5, right? Inside this there are 4 points, inside this there are 5 points, inside this there are again 4 points, again 4 points, again 4 points, right? So they are asking about this particular thing. Okay, so I suggest you watch the revision video and then come back to this, so that it helps you it helps the brain, memorize easily. Okay, now we'll just start off with this. Okay, what are the reporting objectives? Okay, now to plan okay, so there are 2 parts. Okay, one is to plan the timing of audit. Okay, plan the timing of audit procedures. Okay, and the second one is to communicate or rather nature of communication, right? Nature of communication. So reporting objectives include 2 things. Okay, one is planning the timing of audit procedures, and secondly the nature of communication. Okay, so what is in that reporting objective? Right, first how to ascertain the reporting objectives. Okay, first the entity's timetable for reporting. Okay, meaning whether they have to report annually, or whether they have to upload quarterly, or do they have to is there any other such reporting period, like half yearly, or depending on what that entity's reporting objective is. Okay, so entity's timetable for reporting, that is the first point. Okay, second point is organizations of meetings with management for discussing nature, extent and timing of audit work. Okay, next, third is discussing with the expected type and timing of the audit report. Okay, fourth point, discussing expected communication with regarding the status of work, and lastly expected communication between the engagement team members. Okay, so these are the 4 things. You don't have to remember inside this also. Okay, so inside that is not required. Okay, but only the headings is sufficient. Okay, so in this case, what are the 5 things that you have to remember? Firstly, the entity's timetable for reporting. Okay, so the entity's timetable for reporting. Secondly, communicate with management, or rather organization of meetings for discussing the nature, extent and timing of audit work, right? Next, discuss the expected type and timing of the audit report. Fourth point, discuss expected communication regarding the status of work. Fifth point, discuss expected communication between the engagement team members. Okay, we'll just go back to this. Okay, so what are the 5 points that we saw there? Okay, we'll just try to memorize it here. Okay, 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, so firstly it was the entity's timetable, right? Entity's timetable. Okay, so next point was organization of meetings with regard to what? With regard to nature, extent and timing of audit procedures, or of audit work, right? Of audit work. And notice the third point was discuss expected type and timing, right? Type and timing of audit report. Okay, of audit report. And next, the fourth point was expected communication, or rather discuss expected communication discuss expected communication regarding status of work, status of work. Okay, and fifth point was expected communication with audit with engagement team members, okay, nice, fantastic, super, first class. Okay, next we'll move on. We'll just see what they've given. Okay, obviously the same thing. Okay, entities timetable for reporting, organization of meeting to discuss nature, extent and timing of audit work with the management. Next, discussion of expected type and timing of the reports to be issued. Right. Next, discussion with expected communication regarding the status of audit work. Right, and then expected nature and communication among the engagement team members. Okay, so I think that should be sufficient. Okay, so that is question number 10. We are only 1/3 way there. Okay, 1/3 way there because of the questions only, because there are 30 questions almost. We'll just speed through it. Okay, yeah. Now, in establishing the overall audit strategy, the auditor shall, among other considerations, ascertain the nature, timing and extent of resources necessary to perform the audit engagement. Okay, so here, among other considerations, what is this among other considerations? The other considerations, they are asking about what are those other considerations in detail. Okay, so basically they're asking you, okay, so you saw this. Okay, what is given other than this other considerations? They've given ascertain nature, timing and extent of resources. Okay, so here you see the way they have framed this question. Okay, so they've given the audit strategy includes nature, extent and timing of resources. What are the others? Meaning, what are these? Okay, so it is indirectly asking you to explain these in detail. Okay, which is characteristics and scope, reporting objectives, engagement team efforts and preliminary engagement activities. Okay, we'll go through it now. Okay, next. Here also again, you have been appointed as an auditor of MKP Limited for the first time. Discuss briefly the factors considered by you while establishing an overall audit strategy. Again, factors to be considered while creating an overall audit strategy. Okay, so first is characteristic and scope, reporting objective, engagement team effort, preliminary engagement activities and other activities, and nature, extent and timing of resources. Okay, so that only you will have to explain in detail. Okay, identify the characteristics and define its scope, ascertain the reporting objectives to plan the timing of audit and nature of communications, and consider the factors where professional judgment and significant directing is required in the engagement team efforts. Okay, and consider results of the preliminary engagement activities, whether knowledge gained on other engagements performed by the engagement partner is relevant or not. Okay, meaning if you have performed any other engagement which is not an audit engagement, maybe a review or some kind of other assurance engagement only, right? So in case you have any experience, whether such experience is relevant in this case, or the knowledge that is gained through the preliminary engagement activities. You remember what is preliminary engagement activities? That SA 220, SA 220, SA 210, right? Performing procedures as required by SA 220, right? You remember that, right? So what knowledge you have gained by performing those preliminary engagement activities, and whether any other engagement or whether the experience gained by performing any other kind of engagement is relevant for this case or not. Okay, and lastly, ascertain the nature, timing and extent of resources. I hope you understood the way the question was asked and what you have to answer also, right? We'll move on to the next question. Okay, in establishing the overall audit strategy, the auditor shall identify characteristics of the engagement that define its scope. Okay, so basically there are talking about that characteristic and scope part. Okay, Okay. So uh, now what they are asking is, what are the explain in detail what was in the characteristics and scope. Okay. What we had seen in this characteristic and scope. Okay. So we'll just go to the notes quickly. Okay, so we can see here, right? So what affects the characteristics and scope? The AFRF is the applicable financial reporting framework. Okay, so first to understand the characteristics and defining the scope of the entity, you'll have to first find out what financial reporting framework is applicable to the firm. Okay, so whatever applicable financial reporting framework is there, that is AFRF. Okay, applicable financial reporting framework. Okay, so that's the first point. Okay, second point is there any industry specific reporting requirement? Industry specific reporting requirement. Okay, so first is you have to understand what is required by their financial reporting framework. Okay, what is their applicable financial reporting framework? Is there any industry specific reporting requirements? Okay, so that is the second factor. And third one is you'll have to understand the nature of business. Okay, like whether it is a big company or whether it's a small company, whether it's a firm, whether depending on what characteristics it has. Okay, so depending on that, depending on what kind of company or what kind of entity or what size of entity it is, your characteristic and its scope will change. Okay, and any audit evidence that was obtained in the previous audit. Okay, so what will happen is, if you had found any contradictory evidence, or if the evidence proved that what you had found was correct. Okay, so both cases, any audit of previous audit which had proved either contradictions or whether it had proven that something was correct, whether your initial assumption was correct, is part of what forms part of your characteristic and scope. Okay, so we'll just go back to the question, right? So here, what was in this characteristic and scope? I'll just write it here only. Okay, so there are four things, right? One is the first part being the AFRF, what the applicable reporting of whatever the applicable financial reporting framework is. Okay, the second characteristic and scope is relating to the any industry specific reporting requirement, and third, it was nature of business, right? Nature of business, right? And what was the last point? The last point was audit evidence of previous audits. Okay, of previous audits. Okay, so these are the four things that you have to write in this answer in the 12th question, right? 12th question, right? Yeah. So here, the applicable financial reporting framework, that is your AFRF. Okay, next, the nature of business, right? The nature of business and industry specific reporting requirements, and the audit evidence of previous audit. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. All these relate to the audit planning now. Okay, so in this question, this is from the ICI study material illustration. Okay, so W, the auditor of SKM Limited, asks its finance and audit head to prepare audit strategy for conducting an audit. W also insists, W is the auditor. Okay, so auditor also insists him to draw detailed audit procedures. Okay, on the request of W, this company. Okay, so on request of W, SKM Limited, I think that SKM Limited is missing. Okay, on the request of auditor W, SKM completes the audit strategy as well as the audit procedures as prepared by the finance head of the company. Okay, next, subsequently, auditor realizes that the effectiveness of audit is compromised, and it was his responsibility to prepare the overall audit strategy. Okay, so now what has happened is, so let's just take W, which is who is the auditor, right? He is the auditor, and there's some finance head. Okay, so there's some finance head. Okay, so this auditor tells this finance head to, what does he tell that finance head to? Prepare the audit strategy and and audit procedures. Okay, so what this guy does, this finance head, he prepares the audit strategy and gives it to W. Okay, and now in this audit strategy and audit procedures, there is there is a compromise. Okay, so the effectiveness is compromised. Okay, uh, effectiveness is compromised. Okay, effectiveness is compromised, right? So here, now whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the finance head who prepared the audit strategy and audit plan, or is it the fault of the auditor? Okay, so in this case, obviously it is the fault of the auditor. Okay, so auditor is wrong. Okay, so auditor, or rather he's not wrong, auditor is responsible, that's all. Auditor is responsible for preparation of audit strategy and audit procedures, as well as for maintaining the efficiency of the audit. Okay, we'll just go through it once. Okay, so the overall audit strategy and the audit plan remain the auditor's responsibility. Okay, so it remains the auditor's responsibility. Okay, it is the auditor who is responsible for establishing the overall audit strategy and developing the audit plan. Okay, so that we already know, right? So that is what we have to write. Who's responsible to make it? Who is responsible for audit strategy? The auditor. Okay, and who's responsible for the audit plan? The auditor itself. Okay, next, the auditor may decide to discuss elements of planning with the entities managed to facilitate the conduct and management of audit. This we have already seen. Okay, but he needs to ensure that there is no compromise. Okay, so he needs to ensure that there is no compromise in the effectiveness of audit. Okay, so in the given case, request of the auditor, the audit strategy as well as audit that are to be prepared by the finance head, this approach is wrong. Okay, so in this case, the auditor should have taken the responsibility of preparation of audit strategy and for the audit planning, which is developing the audit strategy and establishing the audit strategy and developing the audit plan was the auditor's responsibility. And the auditor may discuss elements of the elements of planning with the management, but he needs to ensure that there is no or rather the effectiveness is not compromised. Okay, next, third point, in the given case, the request of the auditor, the audit strategy and the audit procedures are prepared by the finance head. So the conclusion is the approach of W was wrong, and he should have prepared the overall audit strategy and detailed audit procedures. Okay, very simple, right? We'll move on to the next question. Right, this is also from the okay, so this we'll cover with the audit evidence chapter. Okay, so we'll just put this on hold. Okay, so we'll remember to come back to this. Okay, next, the next question is from the ICI study material. Okay, so an auditor of the company fails to document audit strategy and audit plan. Okay, so briefly outline the consequences of such failure. Okay, so what does documentation do? Okay, I think I've written over here. Okay, just to make it easier to understand. Okay, so here, what does documentation do when it comes to audit strategy? Documentation of audit strategy is a record of key decisions necessary to plan the audit. Okay, it is a record of key decisions considered necessary to plan the audit. Okay, it is a record of key decisions. Okay, it is a record of key decisions necessary to plan the audit. Okay, what is documentation of audit strategy? It is a record of key decisions considered necessary to plan the audit. Okay, and also to communicate significant matters to engagement team. Okay, right? So documentation of audit strategy is a record of key decisions necessary to plan the audit and to communicate significant matters to the engagement team. Okay, next, what is an audit plan? Okay, so what is the documentation of audit plan? Okay, a documented audit plan means it is a record of nature, timing and extent of risk assessment procedures and nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures at assertion levels. Okay, it also serves as a record of proper planning of audit procedures which can be reviewed. Okay, which can be which can be reviewed before performance. Okay, so documentation of audit strategy is a record of key decisions considered necessary to plan the audit and to communicate the significant matters to the engagement team. Okay, now what happens in documentation of audit plan? It is the record of nature, timing and extent of risk assessment procedure, and the nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures at assertion level, and also serves as a record of proper planning of audit procedures which can be reviewed before their performance. Okay, next, just scroll down a bit. Okay, yeah. Okay, next, what you have to document in case of significant change in audit strategy and audit plan. Okay, so when can you change? Okay, when can you change audit strategy and audit plan? Okay, so in case of events, okay, unforeseen events or unforeseen events, and change in condition, okay, change in condition, or for any other, as per any other essays. Okay, so if there's any requirement as required by the any other essays, you can change that. Okay, I think it will come down here somewhere. Yeah, or here, the unexpected events, change in conditions, or evidence obtained from results of audit procedures. Okay, if that evidence is contradictory or it is not adding up, then you can change the audit plan accordingly. Okay, so we'll just come back to this. Okay, we'll just start from the beginning. Okay, so documentation of audit strategy is a record of key decisions. We'll just go off screen and we'll try to write it ourselves. Okay, so in documentation of, firstly, our audit strategy, right? What is in audit strategy? In audit strategy, what was that? It was a record of key decisions, right? Key decisions necessary to plan the audit, right? And it is also used to communicate significant matters to whom? To the engagement team. Okay, to the engagement team. Okay, we'll go to the next part, which is the documentation of audit plan. Okay, so what does audit plan mean? What does audit plan include? A documentation of audit plan, it includes the nature, timing and extent of risk assessment procedures, right? Nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures at assertion level, okay, and this can be and it also serves as record for proper planning of procedures. Okay, proper planning of procedures. Okay, next we saw significant changes. Okay, next we saw actually we didn't see it completely, right? Yeah, what did we see in significant changes? Significant changes in audit strategy and audit plan. Okay, so these can occur because of three reasons. Okay, so there is unexpected events. Okay, so unexpected events, change in the conditions, and lastly, obtaining audit evidence through audit procedures. Okay, so firstly, what should we record when we are changing the audit strategy or audit plan? Okay, so we are going to record the resulting changes in the nature, timing and extent of planned audit procedures. Okay, what are the changes in the audit procedures basically? Okay, so what are the changes in the nature, extent and timing of audit procedures? Okay, and next, explanation as to why such changes are made. Okay, firstly, what are the changes? Second, why those changes were made? And thirdly, what was the audit strategy and audit plan finally adopted at the end? Okay, so these are the things that we are going to find. Okay, so they're going to talk about the same thing over here. Okay, in the question number 15 solution, right? So here, documentation of the audit strategy is a record of key decisions considered necessary to properly plan the audit and to communicate significant matters to the engagement team. And secondly, the second point is documentation of audit plan. Okay, what was the audit plan? It was a nature, timing and extent of risk assessment procedures and further audit procedures at the assertion level in response to the assessed risk. It also serves as a record of proper planning of the audit, and that can be reviewed and approved prior to the performance. Okay, next, a record of significant changes to the overall strategy and plan and resulting changes. Okay, so here the same thing we are discussing, right? Resulting changes in the nature, timing and extent of audit procedures, and why the significant changes were made, and the audit strategy and plan finally adopted. Okay, so it's over here, final audit strategy finally adopted. Okay, next, an auditor of the company cannot conduct an audit in an effective and efficient manner to or demonstrate that that audit was planned in compliance with the SS if they are not properly documented. Meaning he cannot prove, right? He cannot conduct an audit in an effective and efficient manner, and he cannot demonstrate, okay, or demonstrate that the audit was planned and carried on in compliance with the standards of auditing if he does not maintain any document regarding the audit strategy and audit plan, right? Next part, next question number 16. This is from the ICI study material and the MTP May 2021, November 2022, November 2021 and November 2022. Okay, next, SA 300 states that the auditor shall plan the nature, timing and extent of direction, supervision of the engagement team and review of their work, discuss few factors affecting supervision and review of the engagement team. Okay, so here obviously it's very simple. Okay, so you just have to remember size and complexity, the area of audit. Okay, so size and complexity, bigger the firm, more supervision and direction will be required. Area of the audit, meaning are you checking the inventory, are you checking the sales, are you checking only the book entries? Depending on what you are checking, you will have to the nature, timing and extent of direction, supervision and review will change. Okay, and the assess risk of material misstatement. Okay, so first is size and complexity, and then the area of audit, and then the ROMM. Okay, ROMM, and then lastly the capability and capacity. Okay, capability and competence of the individual team members. Okay, what are the four? Try to tell it. Okay, first is size and complexity, right, and then the area of audit, and then capability and competence of the individual members of the engagement team, and one I'm missing is risk of the assessed risk of material misstatement. Assessed ROMM. Okay, assessed ROMM, risk of material misstatement. Okay, is that clear? I think this is pretty simple, right? This is pretty simple. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Next question. So this is coming the RTP November 2018 and 2020. Okay, next, now we'll move on to this question, right? The auditor shall document the overall audit strategy and audit plan and any significant changes made during the engagement and reason for such, and then explain. Okay, so here the same thing that we discussed here, right? The same thing that we discussed here. I recommend you guys to write it without seeing once. Okay, so that will be very helpful. Okay, this is the same answer for the 17th one also, so I'm just going to skip it. Okay, next, okay, so the auditor shall update or change the overall audit strategy. And okay, so basically in this question they are asking what reasons can the auditor change his overall audit strategy or audit plan. Okay, so those three reasons that we remember, right? Very simple, right? First is unexpected events, and then change in conditions, right? And lastly audit evidence obtained through audit procedures. Evidence obtained through procedures. Okay. Next, okay, so auditor may need to modify the audit plan, okay, to the end extent of further audit procedure based on the revised considered of assessed risk. Okay, so he will also consider the revised Roman. Okay, so the revised risk of material misstatement. Okay, so he will change the, or basically what this point was saying is, auditor will change. What and all will he change? He will change the audit strategy, the audit plan, the further audit procedures, right? Further audit procedures, or depending on the revised ROMO. Okay, revised risk of material misstatement. Okay, next. This may be the case when the information comes to the attention which differs significantly from the information that was available when the auditor planned the audit procedures. Okay, so no, different from initial, or different from, what was different? The information, right? We'll just put that info different from initial stages when procedures were formed. Okay, when procedures were formed. Okay, right. Next, so now in what cases can the auditor change the audit strategy and audit plan? Okay, if there is any unexpected events, change in conditions, or any audit evidence obtained through application of audit procedures. Okay, next, the auditor will change the audit strategy, the audit plan, and the nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures based on the revised risk of material misstatement. And secondly, this can happen when there is a deviation or a difference in the information received when, or the information that was available during the initial stages when the procedures were formed. Okay, that's all. Next, establishment of overall audit strategy and detailed plan are closely interrelated. Okay, so basically, is audit strategy and audit plan interrelated, or are they separate, or like there's no, are they related, or are they separate? That is the, so that is the question. Okay, is there any difference between the audit strategy and audit plan, or are they interrelated? Okay, so obviously they are interrelated. Okay, so they are interrelated. First the audit strategy is made, and then the audit plan is made. Okay, or rather it's made in connection to each other. Okay, there's no separating line between. Okay, so this separating line which was there, this is not there. Okay, so they're very closely interrelated. Okay, it is not a sequential process. Okay, like how I said before, it is not like that. It is not like audit strategy will come first and then the audit plan will come. No, it's not like that. It happens it happens together. Okay, so that's what we'll find here. Okay, so now just give the definition of audit strategy and audit plan first. Okay, and then tell that the audit plan is more detailed than the overall audit strategy, that includes nature, timing. Okay, basically this is the audit plan meaning. Okay, audit procedures, place over the course. Okay, same. Okay, next, the establishment of the overall audit strategy and the detailed audit plan is not necessarily discrete or sequential process, but they are closely interrelated. Okay, sequential means one after another. Okay, but in this case they are closely interrelated. Okay, so they are closely interrelated. Okay, next, okay, next, engagement partner, CA Hitesh Kapoor of Kapoor and Associates wanted to develop an audit plan. Okay, discuss the matter to be described in an audit plan. Okay, so what does audit plan include? Okay, so audit plan includes the NET of RAP, risk assessment procedures, as per SA 315, right? And then NET of NET of FAB as per SA 330, right? SA 330. And lastly, any other such procedures or other procedures as may be required to comply with SAs. Okay, to comply with SAs. Okay, maybe this last point there's a bit of a difference in the wording, but we'll just see that. Okay, next, as per SA 300, planning of audit of financial statement, the auditor shall develop an audit plan that shall include a description of nature, timing and extent of risk assessment procedure as per SA 315, nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures at assertion level as determined under SA 330, and other audit procedures that are required to be carried out so that the engagement complies with the SAs. Okay, next, the audit plan is more detailed, right, than the overall audit strategy, and it includes nature, timing and extent of audit procedures to be performed by the engagement team members, and planning of these audit procedures take place over the course of audit as audit plan for the engagement developed. Okay, next, planning of auditor's risk and risk assessment procedures occurs early in the audit process. Okay, so basically we're just trying to give them the process, right? Next, explain what do you mean by documentation of audit plan. Okay, discuss the purpose served by it and also elaborate the tools used by the auditor to reflect the particular engagement circumstances. Okay, so now here what we are trying to say is the importance of documentation of audit plan. Okay, so documentation of audit plan, I think this only will come. Okay, record of nature, time and extent of RAP. We'll just see actually before we make any assumptions, right? So the documentation is the record of NET of RAP and FAB at assertion level to the response assess risk. Okay, it also proper same basically the same. Okay, so auditor may use a standard audit program or completion checklist tailored needed to reflect the, okay, basically the same thing. Okay, not much difference. Basically they were asking about documentation of audit plan, but no problem. Okay, now we'll come to the audit program. I think there are 8 more questions, right? There are 8 more questions, and then 19 more correct or incorrect questions, and then the last 22 MCQs. Okay, we'll just go through that fairly quickly. Okay, next, Rohit, undergoing his practical training, is part of an engagement team conducting an audit of a company engaged in manufacturing of paints. Okay, next, he has been provided with the audit program pertaining to sales. Okay, it lists out the various items to be checked and verified by him, including invoices, rate list, posting in debtor accounts, correlation with invoices, e-way bills, sample basis. Okay, so during verification, he notices that many e-way bills have been cancelled by the company within 24 hours of their generation. There is no specific instruction in the audit program, and he keeps. Okay, so firstly, we just go to the notes once. Okay, and then we'll check here if you have covered it. Okay, it's in the last bottom part. Okay. Okay, so this is what they were asking. Okay, so here we need to encourage the assistants to keep an open mind. Encourage assistants to keep an open mind. Okay, to keep an open mind, and further he must also encourage them to report significant matters that come to their notice to their seniors, managers and partners or proprietors. Okay, so this is what we had to write there. Okay, so since he found some mistake, right, he found some very questionable actions or questionable entries, he did not talk to the his seniors or management. He did not report it to anybody, right? So that is the key problem over here, right? We'll just go through that again. Where did it go? Yeah, okay. So here the assistants that are engaged should be encouraged to keep an open mind beyond the program given to him, okay, and they should also report significant matters that come to their notice to the seniors and partners of the proprietors. In this case, Rohan noticed many e-way bills were cancelled and he did not okay, so they didn't give it here, so he did not report it, okay, he did not report it to his seniors or partners, okay. So the attitude of Rohit is not proper. Reasons for cancellation need to be looked into. Matters should be informed to the engagement partner, okay. Next, perpetuate disadvantages of audit program, okay. So here imaginative supervision of the work carried on by the assistants, okay. So here okay, so here can be overcome, okay. So they're asking whether disadvantages of audit program can be overcome, okay. So it can be overcome by imaginative supervision as a very creative way of maintaining supervision of the work carried on by the assistants, right? And to have a receptive attitude as regards the assistant. What is a receptive attitude? Meaning willing to learn or willing to accept whatever concerns the assistants have, okay. So the auditor must have a receptive attitude or a willingness to learn or a willingness to understand, okay. Next, the assistant should be encouraged to observe matters objectively and bring significant matters to the, okay. So what are the how one second. So how can disadvantages be overcome, okay. Disadvantages be overcome, right? So these disadvantages can be overcome by, firstly, the auditor having receptive attitude, okay. Auditor having a receptive attitude, okay. Receptive attitude, right? Next, next was I think we forgot the first one. Yeah, I kind of forgot the first one. Okay, so imaginative supervision, right? Imaginative supervision, right? Supervision, okay, of work done by assistants. Okay, and lastly, it was I think auditor having receptive attitude and imaginative supervision of work done by the assistant. And lastly, I think it was what was it? It was for them to report, okay. So for them to objectively observe and report any inconsistency, okay. It's okay, I think these wording differences are okay, report any inconsistencies, okay. Next, question number 24, okay. Next, evolving one audit program applicable to all audit engagements under all circumstances is not practical. Explain, okay. Obviously, first we have seen this, right? And notes only. One audit program is not okay. So one audit program is not suitable for okay. So one audit program is not suitable, okay. It is not suitable for all, okay. So all businesses are not the same, okay. So they vary in their nature, size, capital raise, internal control, regulatory framework, and nature of work to be performed, okay. Next, nature, size, capital raised, internal control, regulatory framework, and nature of work to be performed, okay. So since they vary in these factors, then we cannot apply one audit program to all the cases. Okay, I think it was 21, 25, 24. Okay, so they vary in nature, size, capital raise, their working internal control, different laws and regulation. Okay, and the nature of work to be done is varying. Okay, next. Aparna hospitals having gross professional charges of 50 crores engaged in providing healthcare. STP Co, a firm of auditors, is appointed as its auditors. Okay, advise special points to be kept in the purpose of constructing an audit program. Okay, so basically all of these are relating to constructing an audit program. Okay, so basically first just go to the notes. Okay, so first you have to prepare it by ascertaining the or by analyzing. You have to analyze the nature, size, capital raised, and the internal control, and ascertain the, or rather measure the scope of work that is to be performed, and create a minimum essential work that is to be performed. Okay, we just go through this. Okay, auditor, after due regard to the nature, size, capital raised, and dependability of internal control and scope of the work that is to be performed, an audit program containing minimum essential work to be performed as standard program. Okay, so he needs to create a minimum essential work that is to be performed as a standard program. Okay, after due regard to nature, size, capital raised, internal control, dependability of internal control, and scope of work, the auditor should prepare a program containing the minimum essential work that is to be done as a standard program. Okay, next, as he performs the procedures, right, as he performs the audit, he will find certain things that he thought were relevant, okay, but were not added in the audit program. Okay, so to those items which he finds relevant, which were not considered before, he will add those relevant. Okay, so as experience is gained through performing the audit, any area that was initially left out but now considered relevant to be added by altering the program. Okay, but now it is considered relevant is to be added by altering the program. Okay, next, as those procedures are as experience, again same thing for the unnecessary part, as experience is gained through performing the audit. Okay, those procedures that are considered unnecessary beyond reasonable doubt can be excluded by altering the audit program. Okay, and lastly, the same thing, assistants should be encouraged to keep an open mind and to report significant matters to their seniors. Okay, next we move on to the next question. Okay, 25, 26. Okay, it's more or less the same only, and they've also given the points that are to be kept in mind while construction of an program. Okay, this I'll finish here only. Okay, the scope and limitation of work. Okay, stay within the scope and limitation of work. Okay, prepare a written program. Okay, have a written program. Okay, next, identify evidence that is reasonably available. Okay, and next, it is steps and procedures that are useful in accomplishing the verification. Okay, apply only those steps, apply only the useful steps for verification, right? Next, include the objectives for each area and sufficient details to serve as a set of instructions. Okay, basically detailed instructions. Okay, detailed instructions, right? Next, consider all possibility of error, and lastly, coordinate procedures of related items. Okay, now we'll just try to memorize with the short forms only. Okay, so what is this short form here? This is stay within the scope and limitation, right? Stay within scope and limitation, right? Next, the second one is have a written audit program. Okay, keep a written audit program. Okay. Next, identify what is IERA. Try to remember. Okay, these are short forms, and then we'll go on to remember without the help of short forms. Okay, so this is identify evidence that is reasonably available. Okay. Next, what is this AOUSF verification? It is apply only useful useful steps and procedures for verification. Apply only useful steps and verifications to verify. Okay. Next, detailed instruction. Okay, prepare a detailed instructions, right, with regard to objective for each audit area. Okay. Next, POE, consider all possibility of error. Okay. And last, what is this? This CPRE, coordinate procedures of related items, okay, or related entries, right? So these are the things that you need to keep into focus, okay, or keep in mind while preparing the audit program. Okay. Next, the utility of audit program can be retained and enhanced only by keeping the audit program as also the client's operations and internal control under periodic review, so that inadequacies or redundancies of the program may be removed. Explain. Okay. Next. Now, periodic review, right? What is periodic review? That we need to assess whether the same continues to be adequate for obtaining requisite knowledge and evidence. Okay, whether the same procedures or whether the audit program can provide us with is adequate for obtaining requisite knowledge and evidence about the transactions. Okay, unless this is done, any change in the business, if there's any change in business policy of the client, it may not be adequately known. Okay, and consequently the audit work may be carried on the basis of obsolete program, and for this negligence the whole audit may be held as negligently conducted. Okay, so basically if there is any change in the internal policy of the company, but we have not changed our audit program, okay, so it may be held that our entire audit was conducted negligently. Okay, just go through it one by one again. Okay, so periodic review of the audit program is required to assess whether the same continues to be adequate for obtaining requisite knowledge and evidence about the transactions. Unless this is done, any change in the business policy of the client may not be adequately known, and consequently the audit may be carried on the basis of obsolete program. Obsolete means outdated, obsolete program. For this negligence, the whole audit may be held as negligently conducted, and the auditor may have to face legal consequences. Okay. Next, the second point is the utility of audit program can be retained and enhanced only by keeping the audit program as also the client operations and internal control under periodic review, so that the inadequacies and redundancies of the program are removed. Okay, so basically they're telling that you have to keep a check on the use of the audit program is enhanced only by keeping the client operations, internal control and the audit program under periodic review, so that any inadequacies can be removed. Okay. However, as a basic feature, the audit program not only lists the tasks to be carried on, but also contains few relevant instructions like the extent of checking and sampling plan. Okay. Next, every assistant shall complete the specific task in accordance with the work instructions unless the principal modifies the program formally. Many people think that the audit program becomes more rigid as a result of this. This is untrue, provided the periodic review is undertaken to keep the program up to date as possible by encouraging assistants on the job to observe all salient features of the various accounting functions of the client. Okay, so basically the first point talks about, what does the first point talk about? It talks about if we'll just dumb it down. Okay, if adequate or if audit program, or rather this periodic review. Okay, so periodic review is done to ascertain whether the same continues or whether the same is adequate for obtaining knowledge and evidence okay. It also says that unless periodic review is done, right, unless periodic review is done, any change, if there's any change in internal policies of the client, can cause inadequacy in procedures of audit program, right? Next, and it will be held that the entire audit program was conducted negligently, okay. The entire audit was, or the entire engagement was conducted negligently, okay. Next point was okay, so here it also says that you have to keep an eye on the client operations plus their internal control, right, under periodic review, okay. These also should be under periodic review, and this is to ensure that the inadequacies and redundancies are removed, okay. And the last point says that this is relating to the assistant, okay, the assistant being proactive and exercising professional skepticism and reporting significant matters to the seniors or management, okay. Next, we'll move on to the 27th question, okay. I think 4 more are there, okay, and then it should be fine, I guess. We'll just go through it fairly quickly, maybe 2.5 hours, we'll see, okay. In most assertions, much of the evidence can be drawn, and each one of them should be considered and weighed to ascertain its weight to prove or disprove any assertion, okay. An auditor picks up evidence from the variety of fields, analyze and explain with help of examples, okay. So basically they're asking under what methods the auditor gets the evidence, okay. So this part is the main part over here, okay. Next, so here in most of the assertions, much of the evidence be drawn, and each one of the following should be considered and weighed to ascertain its weight to prove or disprove the assertion, okay. Basically whatever was given in the question, the same thing has come here, okay. In this process, an auditor would be in a position to identify the evidence that brings the highest satisfaction to him about the appropriateness or otherwise of the assertion, okay. Next, auditor picks up evidence from documentary evidence, physical examination, statements and explanation by management, okay. Statement and explanation and management, right. Statement and explanation by third parties, arithmetical calculation by auditor, state of internal controls and internal checks, the internal relationship, subsidiary and memorandum of minutes, and subsequent action by the client and others, okay. Just let's go through the example, okay. Next, the auditor, however, has to place appropriate weight on each piece of evidence and accordingly prescribe the priority of verification, okay. So it is true that in all cases that one procedure may not bring the highest satisfaction, and it may be dangerous for the auditor to ignore any evidence that is available, okay. So for example, you cannot just conduct observation, okay. So you cannot conduct only one particular check, okay. So for example, if you're doing documentary verification, then you should also do physical examination whether such asset or such particular item actually exists, right? So if that physical examination is possible, then so if only because the documentary evidence says that such particular asset exists, we'll also need to understand, we will also need to perform one extra method of ascertaining or obtaining evidence, right? So as to completely ensure that the information or the data that we have is correct. Okay. Next point. By the word available, we do not mean the evidence that is available with the client is the only evidence. Okay. So auditor should also know what normally should be available in context of the transaction, having regard to the circumstances and usage. Okay. Next. Okay, so this is the same thing. The audit program must be okay. You have to find out the minimum essential work, the things that we had seen during the formation of an audit program. Okay, I'll just again just pause the video and go through this. Okay, next. CA Vikas Jain discussed his audit team about advantages and disadvantages of audit program. Okay. Next. Now basically they're asking the disadvantages of audit program. Okay. So firstly, it becomes a mechanical process to be carried out without any understanding. Okay, it becomes rigid and inflexible. Inefficient assistance takes shelter and it kills the initiative of efficient assistance. Okay, so firstly it becomes mechanical and they carry it out without understanding the purpose or objective of such particular procedure. Next, it is that it becomes rigid and inflexible. Third, inefficient assistance takes shelter. Okay, they'll tell that just because it is okay, because it is not there in the audit program, I didn't do it. Okay, and second and lastly, it kills the initiatives of enterprising or efficient assistance. Right. Next, last question. List the advantages of audit program. Okay, it provides a clear. Okay. So this is the last part, right? Let's go there. Here. Next. Okay. We'll just do that same thing again. Okay. We'll just read through all of this. Okay. It provides the assistant carrying out the audit with a total and clear set of instructions. Okay. So he gets a clear set of instructions. Okay, he gets a clear set of instructions. Use another color. Okay, he gets a clear set of instructions. Next, the essential particularly of major audit to provide total perspective of the work to be performed. Okay, it also helps in the selection of assistants basis of capability, and it becomes easier to work rationally and plan, define and segregate it. Okay, and when there's a written program, the risk of overlooking records reduces. Okay, or rather if it is without a written program, then the risk increases, but if there is a written program, then the risk decreases. Okay, so a structured program reduces this danger. Okay, next, assistants by putting the signature on the program accept the responsibility of the work to be carried out. Okay, and now the principal can control the progress of various audits in hand by examination of their audit programs. Okay, it also serves as a guide for audits to be carried out in the succeeding year. Okay, lastly, a properly drawn up audit report serves as evidence in the event of charge of negligence being brought against the auditor. Okay, now we'll just zoom in and we just see the short forms and try to answer. Okay, so here CSI here stands for it gives a clear set of instructions. Okay, next, it gives a total perspective of the work that is to be performed. Okay, it also helps in selection of the assistants. Okay, next, the risk of overlooking is reduced. Okay, next, the responsibility is taken. Okay, so responsibility is taken by the assistants and those who put their signature on the audit program. Okay, and the auditor is able to control the progress of multiple audits through analysis of the audit programs. Okay, GFA means it acts as a guide for future audits. Okay, it acts as a guide for future audits. And lastly, it gives a it serves as an evidence that the in the event of any charge of negligence being brought against the auditor. Okay, next, that was the 30th question, and we're done with all the Q&As. Okay, next we'll move on to the correct incorrect. Okay, establishing an overall audit strategy sets the scope time. Okay, so overall audit strategy they're talking about. Okay, so they're talking about the overall audit strategy. It sets the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, and guides the development of the audit plan. Is prerogative of the management. Okay, prerogative of the management. Okay, prerogative means the responsibility or the work. Okay, so it is not the prerogative of the management, it's the prerogative of the auditor. Okay, so it is the auditor's responsibility. Okay, it is not the management. So this answer is rather sorry, this assertion or this statement is wrong. Okay, next, planning is a discrete phase. Okay, so planning is, as we saw, is not a discrete phase. It is an iterative and continual process. See, I am not seeing and telling. Okay, so you guys also have to not see and tell. Okay, planning is not a discrete phase of an audit. It is a iterative and continual process. It begins shortly after the conclusion of the previous audit and continues till the completion of the current audit. Okay, next, what else was there? Did I miss anything? Yeah, planning. Okay, this point I forgot. Okay, so planning includes consideration of timing of certain activities and audit procedures that need to be completed prior to the performance of further audit procedures. Okay, next, audit plan is more detailed than the audit strategy. This is true, correct. Okay, this is correct. It is always, audit plan is always more detailed than the audit strategy. Okay, because audit plan contains the nature, timing, and extent of risk assessment procedures. It also contains the nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures, and it also includes any other procedures that is to be performed so that the engagement is in compliance with the standards of auditing. Okay, next, the establishment of overall audit strategy and the detailed audit plan are not necessarily discrete or sequential. That is correct. Okay, they're not, but they're closely interrelated, since changes in one may relate consequences change into other. Okay, that is correct. Okay, discrete or sequential means they're telling that the audit program and the audit strategy are separate. Okay, what did we find? That they are not separate. Okay, there's no line in between. Okay, this line is not there, so they are very closely interrelated. Okay, so they are very closely interrelated. Okay, so the change in audit strategy can cause a change in audit plan, and any change in audit plan can cause a change in audit strategy, which is correct, right? Next, once the overall audit strategy has been established, the audit plan can be developed to ascertain the various matters identified in the overall audit strategy, taking into account the need to achieve the objectives through efficient use of the auditor's resources. Okay, so the establishment of overall audit strategy and the detailed audit plan are not necessarily discrete or sequential process, but they are closely interrelated. Okay, that was very easy, right? Next, question number 5. A detailed audit program once prepared for a business can be used for let's read the same answer you will have to write. Okay, we'll just skip through this. Okay, we'll just go to the next one. Okay, planning is not a discrete phase but rather a continuous, same thing. Okay, I'm sure we know this. Okay, next, there's no relation between audit plan and knowledge of the client's business. Okay, that is wrong. Okay, so you need to have a knowledge of the client's business. Okay, so that the audit is conducted in an effective and efficient manner. Okay, next, a well designed, well drafted audit strategy which takes care of all the uncertainties and conditions need not be changed. Okay, no, this is incorrect. Okay, so if there's any procedures that is performed, and if there's any deviation, or if there's any audit evidence that is obtained, then you will have to obviously change the audit plan, irrespective of how well it is drafted and how well, or like how much ever care that has been taken into planning of the uncertainties and everything. Okay, so here the same thing, you'll have to write that unexpected event, changes in conditions and evidence obtained, and he may modify the overall audit strategy, the plan, and resulting the audit procedures and everything. Okay, same thing. Next, auditor need not discuss, okay, the elements. Okay, so he may discuss, okay, it's not need not discuss, he may discuss elements of planning, or rather elements of planning the audit with the entity's management. Okay, next, question number 10. Under properly framed audit program by the auditor, danger of significantly less and audit can proceed systematically. Okay, in the properly framed audit, the danger is significantly less. Correct. Okay, if there's a written program, then your risk is significantly less, as risk of overlooking items are reduced. Okay, next. Overall audit plan sets the scope, timing, and direction. No, it is the overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing, and direction. Okay, next. It is not necessary for the auditor to periodically. No, we just saw that periodic review is essential to check whether the program is sufficient to obtain the necessary or the requisite knowledge and evidence, and unless this is done, any change in business policy can render the entire audit program obsolete. Okay, and this may cause negligence, right, and the whole audit may be held as negligently conducted. Okay, next. Audit note can serve as a guide in framing audit program. Correct. Okay, audit note serves as a guide in framing audit programs. Okay, next. Evolving one audit program applicable to all business is not practicable. Correct, because it changes as per the nature, size, capital raised, dependability of internal control, and you have to ascertain the scope of work to be performed, right, for each particular party, right? So you'll have to change that. So one audit program for all businesses is not practicable. Okay, next, question number 15. Okay, so now development of an audit plan is important before the establishment of overall audit strategy to address the various. Okay, it is ulta, right? Development of audit strategy is important before the establishment of, or rather, this part, the establishment of overall audit strategy should have come first. Okay, it should have come first. Okay, here, and this development of audit plan should have gone back there. Okay, next. The auditor can formulate his entire audit program only after he has satisfactory understanding of the internal control. That is correct. Okay, so he needs to understand and obtain an understanding of the internal control, right? If it does not, he is very likely to become unwieldy and unnecessarily heavy. Okay, next, meaning if he does not rely on the internal control, then he'll have to perform more substantive procedures. Okay, so his work will become more heavy. Okay, next. Understanding internal controls of a company will not help. No, that's wrong. Okay, internal control will definitely help in developing an audit program, right? Because it will help in deciding how much he can rely on the internal control. Okay, very good. Okay, done. The documentation of overall audit strategy is a record of audit evidence is considered necessary to properly plan the audit. So it is not a record of audit evidence. See, this is the key here. Okay, it is a audit documentation of audit strategy is a record of key decisions. It is a record of key decisions considered necessary to properly plan the audit and communicate significant matters. Okay, very important. Okay, next, the overall audit strategy is more detailed than the audit plan. No, the plan is more detailed. Okay, next, which of the following is not considered planning in audit generally? Okay, which of these is not considered as planning in audit generally? Understanding regulatory framework. This is, okay, need to consider determination of materiality, evaluating audit evidence, and need to consider the involvement of experts. So firstly, this is correct. Okay, we need that. This is covered under planning. Okay, this is also covered under planning, right? This is also covered under planning. Evaluating audit evidence is not part of planning. Okay, so the answer is C. Okay, next. Which of the following is true about audit plan? Okay, so once audit plan has been finalized, changes cannot be made. This is wrong. Okay, so obviously changes can be made. Those three conditions, right? Unexpected event, change in circumstances, and obtaining evidence. Okay, next, audit plan includes scope, timing and direction. This is also wrong. Okay, what has the scope, timing and direction is the audit strategy that has the scope, timing and direction. Okay, changes in audit plan cannot lead to change in audit strategy. Okay, this is also wrong. Okay, because they are closely interrelated. Change in audit plan can lead to change in audit strategy. Okay, and lastly, so this has to be correct. Yeah, so the answer is B. Okay, so audit plan has to be documented, right? Next question, which of the following is not included in the audit program normally? Okay, extent of checking, date of checking, nature, planning of risk assessment procedures. Okay, in the program, we'll see what they've given. They've given planning of risk assessment procedures. Planning of risk assessment procedures. Okay, next, question number 4. Okay, which of the following is not an advantage of audit program? Okay, it acts as a guide for coming years. Yes. It fixes the, yes, this is also correct. And serves as shelter for assistance. No, C is the wrong answer. It does not. This is the disadvantage, right? This is disadvantage, that inefficient assistance takes shelter, right? Next, question number 5. Which of the following is most important principle for formulating an audit plan? Okay, it is gaining a knowledge of client's business. This is, I feel like that is the correct answer. Answer is B. Gaining knowledge of client's business is more important. Okay, next, when planning the audit, the auditor considers what would make the financial information materially misstated. Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. That is all. I feel like that is correct. We'll see next. The auditor need not consider what would make the financially. No, he must consider. Auditor need not consider on materially at planning stage. No, this is also wrong. Auditor needs to consider what while conducting the audit only. No, this is also wrong. I feel like the answer is A. Yeah, the answer is A. Okay, next. Planning involves audit. Establishing overall audit strategy for the engagement and developing the audit plan. This is correct. I feel like C. So the answer A, option A is correct. Which is C. Option A is correct. Okay. This is very direct, right? Very basic, very direct question. Okay. Next, the auditor shall develop an audit plan. That shall include description of audit plan. Okay, nature of plan wrap. Okay, FAP and all of the above. Okay, so it had NET of wrap, NET of FAP, and other procedures. So all three are there. Next, once the overall audit strategy has been established, dash can be developed to address various matters identified in the overall audit strategy, taking into account the need to achieve the audit objectives through efficient use of the auditor's resources. Okay, so once the audit strategy has been found, then you make the audit plan. Okay, so the audit plan can be developed. Okay, next, planning an audit involves establishing overall audit strategy for the program and engagement. For the engagement and developing an audit plan. Very simple, very easy. Okay, next, statement 1. The establishment of overall audit strategy and detail are not necessarily discrete or sequential. This is correct, true. Next, auditor shall establish an overall audit strategy that guides the development of an audit plan. Both are true. Okay, so both 1 and 2 are correct. So that is C, option C. Next, which of the following is not addressed by the overall? Okay, it's scope, timing and direction. These three are involved, so monitoring is not involved. Okay, next, question number 13. Right, question number 13. The overall audit strategy shall remain the auditor's responsibility. So the answer is A, auditor's responsibility. Very easy. Next, which of the following is correct? Okay, the auditor shall establish an audit plan that sets the scope, timing. Okay, no, the audit plan is not the STD, right? Audit strategy sets the STD. Okay. Okay, so here the auditor shall establish the overall audit strategy and there is no need. Okay, this is wrong. It says there is no need for audit plan. This is wrong, right? Auditor shall establish the audit strategy that sets the scope, timing, and direction and guides the development of an audit plan. This is correct. C is correct. Okay. Next. Dash sets the scope, timing and direction. Very easy. This is the audit overall audit strategy. Okay, so answer is B. Okay, next planning is the process of an audit that often planning is a continuous process. Okay, it is a continuous process that often begins shortly after the completion of previous audit and continues after the completion of the current audit. Okay, very easy. Okay, CAR illustrated to his team the utility of audit program can be retained and enhanced only by keeping. Okay, so this is called the periodic review, right? It's called periodic review. Very easy, right? So basically, he's telling it can be enhanced by keeping the program also. We had seen, no, that you have to apply periodic review on the client's operation and the internal control as well. Right? Next. With reference to SA 300, the auditor shall, okay, this and this, all three. Okay, audit plan, audit strategy, and this changes. Okay, and question number 19. According to SA 300, planning is not a continual and iterative process. No, this is wrong. It is we have to, okay, next we'll be seeing the next one. Planning is not a discrete phase but rather a continuous. Okay, so the answer is B. Without any wasting any time, I'll just tell B. Okay, next. The auditor shall update and change dash as necessary during the course of the audit. He can change both audit strategy and audit plan, both he can change. Okay, so the answer is B. Now question number 21. Which of the following statements is most appropriate? Okay, audit program is a detailed audit plan of strategy. Detailed plan of audit strategy. Questionable. Okay, we'll see. Cannot be reviewed. This is wrong. Obviously, it can be reviewed. Audit program is a detailed plan applying audit procedures. This seems correct. Okay, audit program is relevant for the year it is prepared. It is useless for subject. This is also wrong. I feel like C is the correct answer. Yeah, audit program is a detailed plan of applying audit procedures. Okay, fine. Next, question number 22. Okay, see, a attorney is in the process of formulating an audit plan, conducting an audit of a company engaged in the business of dealing in commodity futures. Which of the following is not likely to be an appropriate audit procedure to be included in audit plan for the above said company? Okay, so it is relating to commodity futures. Okay, verification of turnover, that is okay. Cost of material consumed. Why will you check cost of for commodity futures, right? Examination of company's accounting policy. Okay, that's okay. The futures is shares, right? What kind of raw material will a share trading company have, right? Since company is in the service industry, verification of cost of material is not a relevant audit procedure. And then we're done with this entire chapter's question and answers. Okay, perfect, amazing, super work. To those of you who stayed till the end, thank you very much. Okay, that's all good efforts. You guys deserve to pass if you stay till the end. Take care, tata, bye bye, good night.